I'm thrilled to be with you today. I wanted to serve on the House Ag Committee for this very reason. The challenges in particular facing upstate farms have been mounting. The results and the burden and the crises of climate change has made it more challenging. And America during the last 3 years has acknowledged, if not responded effectively, but acknowledged the weakness in our supply chain. That we are too reliant on other people for the very things we once grew and produced here in this country. And in particular, the Farm Bill over the generations of its existence has given priority, although I would give great credit to Congressman Chris Gibson, who was very successful as an Ag Committee member, moving upstate farm and Northeast farm concerns. However, as the current Secretary knows, as Pat mentioned, the Farm Bill and Ag policy has shifted from a diversified support for farms across the country to a very focused, more so on the rectangle states of America and the large industrial sized farms. What we know as a result of climate, pressures of development, and even our own lack of focus over the course of generations in the Northeast, in particular in the Hudson River Valley, is that we not only have been losing active farmland, but we've lost farmers. Now the good news is, and I've seen this certainly from my previous experience as county executive in Dutchess, the good news is we do actually have a robust and quite innovative farming community. We are seeing young farmers come to the table. The challenges, however, continue to mount, and even they will run the risk of being overcome. And so here we are today with the consideration of the Farm Bill, America's agriculture policy, 85% of which, by the way, goes to nutrition, 15% to farming. We have to marry that and broaden that relationship to ensure that the people who need access to quality, affordable food get it from quality, affordable farms that we enjoy and we represent here throughout the Hudson Valley and the Northeast. Let me talk briefly about some of the initiatives that we're focused on within this Farm Bill. As Pat mentioned, we've introduced the Peer Learning for Conservation Education Act, the PLACE Act. This is meant to create new flexible opportunities for conservation technical assistance that we know will help farmers cut through red tape. We also know will create the synergies necessary from those who have learned and experienced and made use of some of these tools to those who need to. Additionally, I introduced last week the Flood Prevention Assessment and Restoration Act. We know that we are facing increased risk of and results from flooding. This country does a horrible job assessing, researching, and then implementing tools to mitigate flood damage. That bill is meant to provide that kind of national focus. Joining in co-sponsoring the increased TSP Access Act, which we talked a little bit about. This is to really empower organizations like Scenic Hudson and Hudson Valley Agri Development and others to assist farmers address the results of climate change, and as Pat mentioned, join together to co-sponsor the No Emits Act, which again provides flexible funding and technical assistance for the implementation of soil health practices. Listen, it is critically important as we develop in these last 3 weeks the Farm Bill. And to Pat's point, we have a timeline. The good news is there is a bit of a buffer. The expectation is that the House Ag Committee will finalize and adopt and send to the full House the Farm Bill this month in August. I suspect, to be entirely transparent, the House won't take it up until the month of October, with the expectation with the Senate we will adopt a Farm Bill prior to the end of the year, which is satisfactory but late. And that won't undo farm policy, but certainly adds pressure to the need to address and ultimately adopt the bill. I'm happy to say, and this is the only time that I will sound blatantly arrogant, of all of the House minority members, I hold the record of having the most policy initiatives in adopted legislation, which I'm very happy to say, which means, by the way, bipartisan efforts on issues like this can find their way to the floor and then ultimately into legislation. I'm the second of every member of the House. I won't tell you who the first is. She's from Colorado. I'm not sure how that happened, but nevertheless. But my point is that these are important policy initiatives that I'm very confident that with a unified and bipartisan effort, we can get it done. And so let me end where I began before our walk. I have had the great privilege and honor of working with just about all of you. I know nearly everyone here, and over the now 30 years I've held elected office, from the preservation of the Tivoli Bay's estuary and protection of the Hudson River to, as a county executive, developing an aggressive farmland preservation program where we partnered to preserve nearly 10,000 acres of active farmland, and the connector farms between those large tracts of land. We are at a critical moment where we must meet the challenge of climate change, and we must support Northeast and upstate farms overcome those challenges. I have been privileged to grow up in a place where we do, in fact, live between the viewsheds of Frederick Church and Thomas Cole, where they saw the landscape in a way, and the men and women who worked it, in a way that no one has seen since. We also, Pat and I, collectively and cooperatively serve in the shadow of the legacies of great leaders like Teddy Roosevelt, who preserved active lands like the Adirondacks, and Governor George Pataki, who holds the record in this state of protecting more active farmland acres than any state administration in the history of New York. That is an awesome responsibility. And we are now met in this moment where the great crisis of climate change is being met by the overwhelming burdens that farmers face. And so the fact that you continue to work and continue to produce under some astronomically difficult circumstances means that we have to meet that challenge just as you have. And I know, working with my friend Pat, we're going to be able to move some legislation to make it easier and better for upstate farms. And he is my friend Pat. He began in office only weeks before the beginning, or days before the beginning of COVID, I think. And we learned a great deal from one another. We inspire, encourage, agitate, irritate, and advocate one another, which is important. It's the way it's the way this country and this government was created. And the fact and the example that we can do it means that just about anybody should be able to.